Do you ever feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to, yet somehow none of it feels like you? You wake up, move through routines, cross off tasks, but deep down, something feels disconnected, like life is happening around you instead of through you. You try to fix it by working harder, planning more, chasing new goals, but the emptiness doesn't go away. Because maybe the problem isn't that life has no direction. Maybe it's that somewhere along the way, you lost the link between who you are and the life you're living. Welcome to the glitch cult, where we question what feels normal and rediscover depth in a world obsessed with distraction. There's a strange kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work, but from pretending you're fine while something inside quietly fades. You wake up, go through the checklist, messages, breakfast, commute, deadlines. And at the end of the day, you've done everything you were supposed to, yet nothing feels truly yours. You can't point to one thing that's wrong, but you also can't shake the feeling that you're slowly drifting away from yourself. That's the quiet crisis most people never name. The slow disconnection between who you are and what you do. You start out doing things simply because they make you curious, drawing, building, exploring, asking questions. But as you grow, the world starts grading those impulses. You stop creating for joy and start performing for approval. You pick choices that look safe on paper, not the ones that actually feel right. You learn which versions of yourself get praise and which ones get silence. Slowly, you start shaping your life around what's acceptable, not what's authentic. And gradually, your life becomes a performance. One that looks fine from the outside but feels hollow from within. It doesn't happen suddenly. It's not a single choice. It's 1,000 tiny compromises. You take the job that pays more instead of the one that excites you. You suppress opinions to avoid tension. You say yes to things that don't align with you because saying no feels like conflict. Each of those decisions seems harmless on its own, but together they create distance between your true self and your daily self. And that distance has cost. The more you live out of alignment, the less energy you feel. Not the physical kind, but emotional energy, the sense of being present in your own life. Everything begins to blur. The days start to repeat. You begin to operate on autopilot, reacting to what's next instead of choosing what's right. And when you finally stop to look around, you can't quite recognize the person steering the wheel. That's what being aimless often feels like. Not being lost in the world, but being lost within yourself. Because purpose isn't just about goals or ambitions. It's about coherence, when your actions, values, and inner world line up. When that link breaks, no achievement feels fulfilling, and no routine feels meaningful. You might still look productive, but inside, it feels like motion without direction. And the world doesn't make reconnection easy. Everything around you pushes you to function, to stay efficient, adaptable, available. We celebrate those who can juggle everything, not those who pause to ask, does this even feel right? But that pause, that simple act of self-questioning, is often where the lost connection begins to repair itself. Reconnection isn't dramatic. It's not quitting your job overnight or reinventing yourself completely. It's smaller. It's when you start paying attention again to what energizes you and what drains you, to what feels natural and what feels forced. It's choosing one honest moment over a dozen comfortable lies. It's doing one thing today that actually feels like you, because that's the truth behind feeling aimless. It's not the absence of direction. It's the absence of self in your direction. You can't move towards something that doesn't represent you. You can't feel meaning in actions that don't reflect who you are. You don't need a new path. You need a reconnection with the person who is meant to walk it. There's a strange irony about the time we live in. We have more freedom than ever before, and yet more people feel stuck than at any point in history. You could become anything, go anywhere, learn any skill, switch paths overnight, and still feel like you're standing still. It's not that opportunities are missing. It's that there are too many of them, and the weight of choosing feels unbearable. Every generation before ours had limits. People back then didn't have endless choices. You were born into one place, one kind of life, and you mostly stayed there. It sounds limiting, but also made things simpler. You didn't spend years wondering what to do next. You just did what life demanded. The path wasn't wide, but at least it was clear. But today the walls are gone. Everything feels possible. You can reinvent yourself endlessly. And that's where the confusion begins. Because when everything is possible, nothing feels necessary. The mind loves options, but it hates uncertainty. When there are too many directions to go, it freezes. You start playing mental chess with your future, thinking through every possible outcome before you even take the first step. What if I pick the wrong thing? What if I waste years? What if there's something better I haven't found yet? So instead of living one real life, you live hundreds of imaginary ones in your head, analyzing, predicting, and comparing them until all of them blur into noise. This constant awareness of possibilities can quietly destroy your ability to move. You might tell yourself you're being smart, being patient, waiting for the right moment, but deep down, you know it's fear disguised as logic. You scroll through choices the same way you scroll through content, looking for that one thing that instantly feels right but never finding it. And the longer you wait, the heavier the weight of potential becomes. The more you could do, the more you feel you should do, and the guilt of not doing enough grows. There's also a hidden pressure in the idea of limitless potential. It sounds empowering, but it's quietly cruel. Because if you can become anything, then failing to become something extraordinary starts to feel like a personal flaw. It's easy to feel guilty for not living up to all that possibility. You begin to see your life not as what it is, but as what it could have been. And that's a recipe for permanent dissatisfaction. And yet, real direction rarely begins with perfect clarity. It begins with motion, messy, uncertain human motion. You can't think your way into certainty. You can only act your way into it. Once you start walking down one path, life narrows in just the right way. You begin to see what fits and what doesn't. The fog clears only for those who are already moving through it. Maybe that's the real cost of infinite potential. It tricks you into waiting for a feeling that only comes after you begin. You want to feel sure before you commit, but commitment is the very thing that creates that sense of surety. The freedom to do anything doesn't mean much if it leaves you too paralyzed to do something. When anything could be your path, commitment starts to feel like confinement. But in truth, it's the opposite. Commitment is what turns an endless maze into a road. There's a moment that everyone knows. That quiet hesitation before making a decision that could change something. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. Picking a career path, ending a relationship, moving cities, or even just starting something new. Deep down, you feel that tension between what you want to do and what you're afraid might happen if you do it. And for many people, that's where life gets stuck, right in that hesitation. We often tell ourselves we're waiting for clarity, waiting until we know for sure. But that's rarely true. What we're actually waiting for is the removal of risk, a guarantee that this path will work out, that we won't regret it later. But no such guarantee exists. There's no signpost in life that says, yes, this is the right one. So we hover, caught between possibilities, pretending we're thinking it through, when in reality, we're just trying to avoid regret. That's the hidden fear underneath so much aimlessness, the fear of choosing wrong. It's not that you don't have dreams or ideas or things you want. It's that you're terrified of committing to one version of yourself, because it means letting go of all the others. Every yes you give in life is also a quiet no to 100 other possibilities, and that's a hard truth to live with. So you tell yourself, I'm just not ready yet, or I'll figure it out soon. But the longer you wait, the more comfortable that waiting becomes. You start to mistake inaction for patience. You start to believe that clarity will come before commitment, when in reality, it usually comes after. Every meaningful choice feels risky because it demands identity. The moment you choose, you define yourself. And that's what makes it scary. You can't hide behind potential anymore. You have to live the outcome. The dream becomes real, which also means it can fail. And for most people, it's easier to live with the fantasy of what could be than to face the reality of what might go wrong. But here's the quiet truth. Meaning doesn't appear before the decision. It's created by the decision. You don't know if something is right by thinking about it. You learn it by living through it. The act of choosing gives shape to who you are. Each choice is like a contour, defining the edges of your identity. Without them, life remains an unshaped blur. And yes, some choices will turn out badly. Some will hurt. Some will close doors you might wish stayed open. But that's how direction is built, through the willingness to live with imperfection. A fulfilled life isn't made of perfect choices. It's made of owned ones. The more you avoid choosing, the smaller your world becomes. You start living in the safe middle, where nothing is risked, but nothing grows either. You mistake stillness for control, but it's really just fear wearing a mask of logic. Waiting for clarity is often the very thing that keeps you lost. Because clarity isn't a light that appears in front of you. It's something that grows behind you in the footprints of the choices you've already made. Somewhere along the way, we started treating life like a puzzle that needs to be solved before it can be lived. People wait for answers, for signs, for perfect timing. They read, plan, and prepare endlessly, hoping that one day, they'll wake up and suddenly know what to do. But life doesn't work like that. It never did. The understanding comes after the experience, not before it. There was a time when people didn't overthink life this much. Their choices were limited, but their direction was clear. Life itself set the pace. You did what the day demanded. And in doing so, found your place within it. There wasn't space to question whether every step had meaning, because meaning was woven into responsibility, into showing up and doing what needed to be done. But modern life flipped that order. We now believe we need a purpose first, that we have to feel ready, inspired, or certain before we begin. And that single belief has paralyzed an entire generation. We've forgotten that the process of living creates clarity. You only understand what fits you after trying what doesn't. You only discover direction after walking through confusion. But because we fear wasting time, we end up wasting years doing nothing, waiting for an emotion that will only arrive once we've already started. You can read 100 books on swimming, but none of them will teach you how water actually feels. Life works the same way. You can analyze it, plan it, overthink it, but at some point, you have to step in. You learn rhythm, balance, and meaning through contact, not theory. The truth is, most people aren't directionless. They're disconnected from the act of doing. They confuse reflection with progress. They keep asking big questions. What's my purpose? What's the point? But never realize that the answers are built, not found. Meaning doesn't wait for you to find it. It forms quietly behind you, in the traces of what you've already lived. Think about the times you actually felt most alive. It probably wasn't when you had everything figured out. It was when you were involved in something, learning, failing, experimenting, making. Purpose always hides inside movement. It reveals itself through trial, not theory. That's the forgotten skill, to live first and understand later. And maybe that's what modern confusion really is, the side effect of too much thinking and not enough participation. You can't think your way into a meaningful life. You have to live your way into one. Waiting for meaning before you move is like waiting to feel fit before you start exercising. It doesn't happen in that order. Living itself is the generator of direction. The more you engage with life, even imperfectly, the clearer things become. The fog doesn't lift when you stand still. It lifts as you walk through it. So, if you feel aimless, maybe you don't need another plan or epiphany. Maybe you just need to begin again, imperfectly, wherever you are. Because movement, even small, uncertain, human movement is how life starts making sense again. You don't find purpose before you begin. You find it by living, not thinking.